why are we fixated with being young? And I think it's because people are afraid of dying.
Thanks for watching Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to catch all of our conversations. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. We are beyond thrilled to have Annette O'Toole on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, my dear Irish named ladies. Makes me feel close to you already.
Oh gosh, even though we're Italian, we appreciate it.
Yeah, who was it?
I love Italians. Oh gosh,
it's so funny.
I just watched the latest episode of Stanley Tucci in Italy. He's in Milan.
Oh my goodness!
Gosh. Yes, in fact, I haven't finished it. I get to go back to it when I finish talking to you.
It's so funny. You know what? I think Sharon Glass said the same thing when we interviewed her.
Oh, yeah.
She goes, Bridget, but I can understand Bridget and
That's
Colleen.
Okay.
Yes.
And we just watched Nona's too. That's a great
show. Yes, I'm saving that. I haven't. I thought, well, I'll watch 4 seasons first and then I'll go to Nona's. I just finished 4 seasons, so that's next on my list.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, speaking of shows, you have been quite busy with Virgin River. As a matter of fact, as we talked to you, you are taping season 7. Did you have any clue it was going to be this much of a success?
No, gosh, no. If something goes 2 years as a series, that's especially on Netflix. We're currently the longest running dramatic series on Netflix because they sort of have a pattern of, people like the shows and then they cancel them for some reason and fans get very upset with it, but they've let us continue on. I think because we're very cheap to produce. we're up here in Vancouver. It's very beautiful. We don't have any special effects. It's not a big sci-fi green screen show. So it's just all these actors, in various combinations, talking to one another, falling in and out of love and against a gorgeous backdrop of nature. So what's not to like? And we have lovely producers who work really hard and putting it all together, and a great cast. So, but no, gosh, I remember in season 2, I think it was, Alexandra and I were sitting at the exterior of Jack's bar location. And it was I don't know if the first season had aired yet. She said, "Do you think anybody's going to watch this?" And I said, "Alexandra, I kind of think you have to be prepared for this to be successful." It's like, I felt this was before COVID. I thought it was just the right thing at the right time. I thought that Netflix was very smart to go into the romantic series business, and it's based on all these books. So there was a lot of material for them to draw from. And then COVID hit. And when we started airing, I think people, as you said, need a place to go, a beautiful place where we can be happy and there is no COVID and people are nice to one another. And it's a small town community atmosphere. So we're still bringing that going into season 7.
Yeah. I mean, it is so nice because, and it's also very relatable. Like Colleen had said earlier, when you watch these shoot 'em up, scary sci-fi things, the world was scary enough with COVID out there. And
absolutely.
This was just kind of like, okay, I can relate to these people. And so it
gets
nice.
Scarier by the day. I mean,
yes, it does.
Something every single day to be scared about. So I agree with you. I will confess I don't watch the show mainly because it's hard for me to watch myself. So but I know what's happening. I read the scripts and we do a table read we do block episodes. So we do 2 episodes at once. So it's kind of like shooting a little movie in 15 days. And we have wonderful directors. And so I get enough from that I don't have to put myself through the agony of watching myself,
I hear people say that all the time, though, that they don't like to watch themselves.
But you've never really liked to watch your shows, have you?
No. At the beginning, I would, because I needed to know technical stuff early on. I really needed to know what the camera was seeing and how to, and my gosh, it's been so long now. I've learned that as much as I need to, and then it's a funny thing. I just started thinking, why is it that I am so repelled by it? And one part is getting older, looking at myself and saying, "Oh God, oh my, I wish they'd lit me better there." But I think sometimes it's because I concentrate too much on myself, and I'm only watching me, and it it takes me out of the show, and that's not good. I mean, it's an actor is supposed to be, part of the fabric of the show. I think if it's especially if it's an ensemble piece like this is, or in a play, you're just part of the fabric. And so I'm kind of looking at it now as more of a theatrical thing, rather. Maybe it's because I'm when you did your interview with Rebecca Wasaki, she talked about, you asked her about directing, and she said, I don't really want to direct, but I'm coaching. And I thought that's really what I'm interested in. I'm only interested in what the actors are doing. When I see a movie, I'm very excited to see the new Mission Impossible and see, Tom flying around and holding on to helicopters and things. But what really interests me is what is happening between the actors, and the direction and how things look as a whole. And so that, gosh, I went way off
Oh
whatever your
no,
first
that's
question
cool.
was.
No, I think that's
But
cool though.
yeah, yeah, so watching myself is by far not my favorite thing.
Well, I could remember one of the first things I remember watching you in was the play Vanities.
Oh my
I,
goodness.
I loved it. I think there was like, I think HBO showed it like that's,
Yes.
and they showed Standing Room Only, and
Uh-huh.
that was like one of my favorite plays that
Oh,
I
I
saw with
thank
you in it.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. Not a whole lot of people saw that. I think I think we were the first play recorded for HBO, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was the first one shown, but I think we were kind of a guinea pig as to how they were going to do it, where they were putting cameras, and I remember asking the director, now, do we do this as if we're just doing the play, so it's full out for an audience, or are we mindful of the fact that it's going to be seen? I mean, how do we do this? And there was a question about it. Nobody really knew. It was a new way of doing all this. So I remember that they would, I think they shot like two or three of the performances so they could cut it together. And then they would come in after the play, and we would do close-ups of certain things they wanted to catch. I remember that. I think that is accurate as to how we did it. But I love that play. And if no one's seen it, I don't know if it's available anywhere, but
Yeah.
it's a wonderful play that takes place. The three acts are about the three times in these women's lives, these three very close friends in high school, and then college, and then later living in New York, or some of them are living in New York. And this is what happens to it. And Shelley Hack and Meredith Baxter Burney were the other two girls, and me. And I
Yeah.
was I was the one who was ordering people around. So I'm still doing that in Virgin River.
Yes, you can be quite bossy on
I
Virgin River.
know, it's fun to play that because I'm not that way in life. I wish I were more.
You started very young because you were a dancer and your mom was a
Mhm.
dance instructor. And what was it like being in that world from such a young age? Did you just catch that theater bug and say, I want to be, you know?
Yes, I just grew up in it, even though I was growing up in Houston, Texas. Houston was a very big city then, and um, we were very involved because my mom and my aunt were dancing teachers. We were always invited to be on television by the local kiddie show program called Don Mahoney and the Kiddie Troopers. And so we would sit on hay bales in this place. It was a country singer with his guitar, and Jenna Claire, his sidekick. And so every week, my either I would be on, or my mom would get a call from Don Mahoney saying, "Can you have a line of kids who can come and dance?" And she always did. So it was just part of our world. And we had a big recital every year, and we did the Shriners Ball every year at the Coliseum. So I was just always involved in it. And then my very first acting class was at the Alley Theater, which is now a very well regarded, renowned regional theater in Houston. And it was called the Alley Theater because it was in an alley. You go in through the alley. And that's when I started. I went into the alley, and I did a scene with the other kids from A Midsummer Night's Dream, where I played Thisbe in the Pyramus and Thisbe portion of A Midsummer Night's Dream. So I was a girl playing a boy playing a girl. And I remember working on my voice, and I was really young, and there was just something about it that always appealed to me. I'm an only child, and I really like performing and kind of being the center of everything. But I was also very shy. All the things that people talk about that go into kind of making an actor. I had all those traits. So it's just been a really special and humbling experience. Humbling meaning I feel humble that I've been given such a wonderful support system in my family, and some basic talent that I applied, and I had really wonderful teachers. So everything came together for me to be able to continue to do it into my 70s now.
And so you went to California when you were 13, or is
Yeah.
that correct? Okay. So
Mhm.
so was that like a something that your mom was called to do, or was it something they called you to do
They
to go
called
there?
me to do. It's funny. It's an interesting situation. My aunt, my mother's older sister, was more of the power behind that. My mother at that time was, I think, 39, maybe. Yeah. And she had always been, she got married really young. She went into business with her sister. She'd never really been on her own. She didn't go off to college. Um, so this was her opportunity to be on her own. My dad was working for this company called Brown and Root, which is a big oil company, and he was working on oil rigs all around the world. So he was off, on oil rigs, and so I'm the only child. So my mother's sister's daughter, my cousin, wanted to go to art school in California. So it kind of worked out, and they thought I was just, the most talented thing that had ever happened. So we go out to California just for the summer, and they knew through the whole dancing school world, they knew a choreographer, they knew a dance instructor and a very famous tap teacher named Al Gilbert. And through him, we met Tony Sharmely, who was the choreographer for the Danny Kaye show. And so I auditioned for Tony Sharmely, and they were looking for a young girl to play the young Gwen Verdon, who was the guest star on the Danny Kaye show. And so I got the part. And so right off the bat, that was within the first month I was there. So they all thought, well, this was a sign from God, of course, that I was going to just have this great career. And that was my focus, was musical comedy. I really had a chip on my shoulder about acting. I thought, oh no, no, I'll never do that. I'll be on Broadway, and I'll be a big dancer. I was turning 18, and I had gotten one of the lead dancing roles in Promises, Promises, which was coming out from New York to LA. And Michael Bennett was the choreographer and director of that. Choreographer, I don't know if he directed it. Anyway, who went on later, not very much later than that, to do a chorus line. So he chose me, and he kept asking me if I was 18. And I didn't want to lie. So I just said, because I was going to be 18 by the time rehearsal started. So I wasn't really lying. But at the same time, I was being sent out for these acting jobs because I realized I needed some acting. I didn't realize it. My agent said, you're going to need some acting lessons. So I went to this acting class. And so I happened to fall in love with acting. I just felt like it was a really wonderful, my thing, not my mom or my aunt's thing. It was my thing. So like a true convert, I became very adamant about my newfound love. So I got a role on Gunsmoke. I went in for this part, and I had to decide whether I was going to do Promises, Promises or Gunsmoke. And my mother really said, you have to make this decision yourself. It's your decision to make, because it was the week I turned 18. So I chose Gunsmoke because I felt like, I didn't know at the time I was making a decision for the rest of my life, but it turned out I was. I thought, I'm a good dancer. I'm not a great dancer. It's a short career. My knees will eventually give out. I don't want to teach dancing. Um, if I do acting, I can do it till the day I die if I work really hard at it. And I remember thinking all those thoughts, and they were accurate. So I'm glad I did it. And that year when I turned 18, because you can work as an adult and you no longer have to have a chaperone with you or a social worker on set. I worked a ton, and I was studying acting, and I was working, and it was wonderful to have those two things, because everything I was learning in class I could apply or think, well, that doesn't really help me. I have to figure this out for myself. because that's what acting is. Nobody can really teach you. They can give you the basics, but you have to kind of come up with a way to, especially film acting. It's so strange. You sit there in a trailer for hours waiting for them to light or do whatever they do, and then you have to go and like immediately be very upset or into a scene that is being shot out of order. So you figure it out, and then that's what I did. So I was very lucky to get practice at it.
I was listening to an interview that you did where you said that you were just too naive to realize that there was anything like the couch or that
Uh-huh.
that producers or directors would hit on you. Did you see that with other women that were actresses or
I didn't because I really, I would see other women at auditions. There would be a lot of us there, and we talk. And there were certain people I really loved. Morgan, she changed her name, Morgan Brittany. She was at the time Suzanne Capito. She'd played the Baby June in the movie of Gypsy, and then she went on. She changed it. And I remember sitting in an interview, and she said, "I'm thinking of changing my name." I said, "Really? You have such a beautiful name." And she said, "Yes, I'm going to be Morgan Brittany." And I thought, oh no, it sounds like like the title from a Gothic novel. But I didn't tell her that, and she went on to do very well. But that was like the extent of our conversations. I never really, I had some friends in acting class who were actresses, but I didn't really know what was going on with other people. I just knew that I kind of had blinders on, and it was all about the work for me, studying and doing the work. And, I had a boyfriend or a series of boyfriends, and but that was not my focus. My focus was really my career.
Mm. To get
So
that.
I just didn't, I wasn't aware of it. I know it had, and when I think really hard, I think about people saying stuff to me, and I think, well, that was out of line. They shouldn't
Right.
have done that. Well, why didn't I speak up? And it's like it just didn't occur to me. Wasn't hearing it in that way, and I think that's just maybe my upbringing, and maybe I just got lucky with the parts I got. I've mostly had wonderful experiences with people. I can only think of a couple that were like, I wish that was kind of creepy, or not creepy, but like, kind of
wish
off-putting.
that hadn't happened or been
Yeah,
put in that?
yeah,
Because you were saying, in the interview that it's very common for directors to want to meet at hotels because they're flying in
right.
to meet you. So you don't think
Yeah.
twice when they say, "Can you come to my hotel room to audition?"
Well, yeah, I thought twice. I remember one time, I don't know if I spoke about it in that other interview, but the other interview is, we don't care about that. In this interview, yeah, I was meeting a director who has been set up through a very big producer for me to meet a director who had flown in for a big movie. And I thought we were meeting because I had met them a lot of times in the restaurant or the coffee shop or some outside on a patio or something. And it was all on the up and up. So that's what I expected this to be. And they said, he wants you to come to his room. So I didn't, because I'd never had this experience before. I didn't think anything about it. I go up and he really was very aggressive. I think he had some drinks and it was the end of a day or end of a flight or something. And he was kind of all over me.
Ooh.
But the funny thing was for me, the first thing that came into my mind was, oh, he doesn't really want me for this part. And so that propelled me out of the room because I thought, how dare you? I'm here as an actress. I'm not here to be your, escort for the evening. And if that's what you thought this was, it's not. And knew I would never work with that man, and I never did. And he's a very well-known now not with us anymore director. But and I don't remember the movie. I don't even know if the movie got made, but doesn't matter anymore. But that was the biggest one I can think of that happened to me. And he made no beans about my leaving. I just said I'm out of here. So
Wow.
it wasn't like
Good,
he
good
grabbed
for
me
you
and
though, at a young age that you could set that boundary because some
yeah.
women.
Well, yeah, I would have people call me up, producers, and say, you want to go to Las Vegas for the weekend? And I said, can I bring my boyfriend? And they said, what? I said, because I just didn't get it.
Right.
I
Mhm.
really didn't get it.
Right.
It took me a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And I feel like so many actors too, it's so hard in that career, and it's so hard to, you've got so much competition, you've got so much talent out there that
Yeah.
I can see where they feel if I don't do this, then I don't have a career. And that's been, you hear stories where that's been threatened to people that
Yeah.
you
It's
don't, it's
horrible, isn't
horrible.
it?
It's a horrible situation. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it doesn't just happen in the entertainment world.
No,
I
that's
think it
true.
happens in every career. It actually happens probably, but
Probably.
hopefully it sounds like a lot of women are coming out with saying these
Right.
things are happening, and that
Yeah.
you need to be on the lookout, and we'll name you, and
Yeah. Good
We
for
will call
them.
you
yeah,
out.
yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
so
That do
yeah.
you find that, because you do work with some younger people now on the show, that the social media aspect has changed the way actors enter into a role? Because I know we've talked to a lot of actors who say part of the agreement is that they're going to post on Instagram, they're going to post on TikTok. Do you see that change happening?
Yeah, I see it a lot. I do Instagram. I used to do Twitter, and then I opted out of that. And but I do Instagram. I don't take enough pictures. I just don't. I'm not good, but they are. They are always
Right.
taking pictures. And like on Virgin River, they ask us not to post anything while we're shooting. Once once the show drops, which is probably in the fall, again, I would imagine, they say, yeah, you can send them to us so we can kind of approve them. But they don't want to give away anything or show even any wardrobe for people to say, oh, they're going to be doing this. So that, but they take tons of pictures all the time, and then later on they post them. And I think, oh God, I should have done that. I think why nobody, it's a young person's
Yeah.
world, all that, and yeah, it's funny. I understand that's just how it is, and if I were a young person, I don't think I could. I probably would do it because it would be what I know and what is expected of me, but I just there's something, it just takes you out of the work you're doing, I think. But you're all sitting there around, waiting for I knit or I read or something, and they're taking pictures. It's like, whatever. I don't care. The young people I get to work with are lovely. Sarah Dugdale mostly plays Lizzie, and Kai Bradbury who plays Denny. We have a lot to do together, especially coming up, and because they're living with my character. So and they're a little bit older than their characters, not quite, maybe 10 years older than the characters they play. So they're, they're not kids. They've been around, and they're very dedicated. They're incredibly professional and kind people, and I love both of them. So maybe they're not good examples because they're so hardworking. I'm not around anybody who's not. But I know there are those people. They just they haven't been able to have the practice that I had early on. There's not that much that for them. Well, maybe there is. Maybe there is all that work. I don't know anymore. I'm just doing what I
Well,
do.
I think it seems to be working. Like, we've had different people on, and it is really great to see the different roles they have out there for
Mhm.
women that I feel like they didn't have as many for women in our demographic as they
Yeah,
do now. I mean, do you find that to be the case as
I
well?
do. I do. It's wonderful to
Hmm.
see people like Kathy Bates, having this series, and yeah, and like the Four Seasons, which I just watched, is mostly about people, older couples trying to figure things out, and I love it. I just like it when a show like that shows the side of you. Just because you're older doesn't mean you have anything worked out, really. You just lived a little bit longer, and you just have the same problems and concerns and fears and loves and everything. So, we're all people and just trying to make it work. I just think the more we can be open and kind to one another, the better.
Right, exactly. I was going to ask too about, like, when I was researching, I didn't realize that you and your husband wrote the song for A Mighty Wind that was Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's really, I love it. I love all those movies.
Yes.
First, I love all those Christopher Guest movies and just all of them. And that would too, just bringing in the folk part of it. And
Hmm.
the
Can you share
rose.
how that came
Yeah. How,
about?
how did that come about?
Sure. I've told this story a few times, but it's a good story. I was doing Smallville, the series Smallville up in Vancouver, where I am. I can't escape Vancouver. Um, it's a lovely place to not have to escape. I mean, to not want to escape. Um, And so 9/11 happened. It was our second episode, and I was stuck up here with no planes to get home, and I was really, really wanting to be with my family. It was a really scary time. I didn't know what was going to happen next, so I really wanted to be home. So I got in a car and drove home from Vancouver to Los Angeles, and I got there and they called and said, we need you back immediately. So no plane. So my husband got in the car with me, the rental car, and we drove back. So on the way back to Vancouver, I had this melody going through my head. And I said to him, this melody, am I making this up, or is this like an old song that I'm just repeating? And I sang it to him. And he said, I think you're making that up. He said, and we just started making up lyrics to it. And we wrote the whole thing pretty much in the car. When we got to Vancouver, we sat down or he sat down and kind of put the finishing touches on it. And that turned out to be a song that the new Main Street Singers sing. It's called "Potatoes in the Paddy Wagon," that they sing in the show. And when we got to Vancouver, Michael said, because they were writing the music for the movie, he said, I think maybe Chris will like this for the movie. It could work because we're trying to do all kinds of folk songs. So we sang it for Chris. He liked it, put it in the movie. And then he asked Michael if he'd like to write the signature song. And he said, the only thing it has to have is a kiss. It has to be centered around a kiss. So Michael said, I got to write this song. Do you want to write it with me? I said, sure. And he said, all I have is a title, A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow. And so I said, great. So we sat down and we wrote it like in an hour. And then we went out to walk our former dog, Jimmy, and finished writing it on the walk and sang it for Chris. And his wife, Jamie Lee Curtis, was there at the time with him listening to the song. And Chris thought it was too good a song. He said, this is like a real song. It's not funny enough. And she said, oh no, it needs to be. It needs to be a real song. So I think with her encouragement, he got on board, but we went home and wrote another song just in case called Closer Than Tomorrow, which is also a very good song. Wasn't in the movie, but and then we wrote another song. Well, Michael wrote a lot of music for the show, but I contributed. There's a what's it called? Like a fisherman's song, a seafaring song, Fare Away, about whaling and stuff. So we just we had a lot of Patrick O'Brien books, and we got them down and took out all the nautical references and just put everything in the song that we could. So
yeah. We mentioned your husband, Michael McKeon, and we pretend like, oh, it's just Michael. No, he is a very well-known actor and
yes.
musician as well. And I love the story of the fact that you two were friends, but nothing really happened for you. You kind of given up on romance and marriage. Can you share the story of how you guys kind of came to be?
Yeah. Well, I had known Michael to say hi to for many, many years. He was on Laverne and Shirley, and I was, doing my stuff, and I was seeing an actor named Bruno Kirby, who was actually in Spinal Tap. He plays the limo driver. And so we were kind of in the same circle of friends, Chris Guest and all those people. And but Michael was married and had kids, children, and I, there was nothing there. I just thought he was a nice man. So fast forward to 1997, and I'm living in Ashland, Oregon, and divorced, and have two children. And Michael is divorced, and we do a TV movie together for Lifetime called Final Justice. I did two movies with "final" in the title, so I was trying to remember
which one.
Final Justice and Final Descent. It's Final Justice, and we were shooting in Portland, Oregon, and we just became friendly on set. He was the only other actor besides Richard Thomas who would bring a book to set, and we would sit there with our books and read and talk about books and talk about our kids and stuff. And so when I went back to Ashland, Oregon, and he went back to LA, he would email me or call me up and say, hey, Elvis Costello is going to be on blah, blah, blah. And, because we both love Elvis Costello. And it was just a really nice friendship. And then one night, I remember my daughter Anna was really, really sick. She was about, how old was she? 9 or 10. And I had her in bed with me because I wanted to watch her through the night. She had been so sick and had fever. And the phone rang. It was Michael. It was like 11 something. And he said, Annette? And I said, yes. And it was just like, I could hear this other thing in his voice. And I thought, oh my God. And I said, Michael, I really want to talk to you, but Anna is really sick and I can't talk right now. Can you call me tomorrow? And he said, oh, yes, yes, I'll call you tomorrow. And I thought, first of all, I don't know if he'll call me, but how exciting. And I did that thing. I went to the bathroom and jumped up and down and did a silent scream. Because I thought, oh my God, I really wasn't. I had been divorced maybe 4 years or something. I was on my way back to LA to live because I was the breadwinner for this whole family. And I was getting older and I needed to be in the place where the work was happening. And so I then would, he did call me the next day. And then we just had this wonderful phone love affair. And then I was coming back to LA to look for schools for the kids. And I we went out on a date, our first date. And it was funny because I already knew him so well from having worked with him really closely and from all these talks we had about everything. And then when I saw him, I remember I jumped in the car and just threw my arms around him and we had this big kiss. And it was like just so romantic. It was wonderful. And then that night we went to see Bob Dylan, Van Morrison, and Joni Mitchell in concert at UCLA. So it was quite a first date. It was really,
Wow.
really exciting. And I knew immediately, actually, I knew the night he called me that we were going to spend the rest of our lives together.
Wow.
I just knew it. So it was
That's
based
amazing.
on you really strong. When you work with somebody, especially in a movie, and you're playing, because we weren't playing lovers in the movie, we were adversaries in the movie. He was this sleazy lawyer, and I was this woman. He had gotten my brother had been killed, and there was this trial, and he was the lawyer who had gotten the killer off. So I had this vendetta, and so I kidnapped him and tortured him in a cabin and all this stuff. Real lifetime fare. And so it wasn't like we fell in love over that. It was just we became really close friends because there's just something about trusting one another as actors and knowing the other person's there for you and considering their opinion so much. It's a good basis for a marriage. This is why I think why a lot of actors fall in love on sets because there is
Sure.
that bond.
Right. And you're spending all this time together. I mean,
Yeah,
you're there for so long, but
yeah.
but just, the story of the song just is so wonderful, I think. And
Aw,
those movies, they're so unique. All
yeah.
of the Christopher Guest type movies. I'm from Kentucky and I was at Derby one year and Fred Willard's wife was in front of me in the bathroom line. And
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that was
Mary
her.
Willard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jamie Presley was at the Derby too, and she was right in front of me, and
Uh-huh.
people were coming up talking to them. And I just said something like, "Oh, I saw Fred Willard over there. I don't want to bother him though." And I said, "But I really love Best in Show. It's one of my favorite movies." And she's like, "Oh, here's his wife. Here's his wife." His wife said, "They need to make one of the Kentucky Derby." And I said, "Oh, yes, they do. It is quite it's quite different,
Yeah.
but they are really great, and
Yeah, they are
it,
wonderful films.
it is. And I really loved you as Rose Kennedy.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
yeah,
Yes.
and were you nominated for that as well for a
Yes, I was nominated for an Emmy and for a Golden Globe. I
oh
think I
really
was. Yeah, it shows you how much attention I pay to awards. I think I was.
good for you though,
Yeah,
but
I find all that
yeah.
just like which is convenient since I've not been nominated very often. So
But you were very
But
good as that
yeah, and you've
role. Yeah.
consistently worked, which is
yes, that's better, I
the
think.
longevity of that says a lot about your talent.
Oh,
Right.
thank you.
When
Yeah.
you
Thanks.
when you were talking about, you're in your 40s, you're in Oregon and you have to move back, was that a time where you were noticing that the roles for women in their 40s, were you playing already the mother or the grand, like what were the roles like then?
I actually was doing really well then. I've always looked a bit younger than I am, so I think I was lucky in that way. I I I had some really juicy roles in my 40s. Um, so I maybe it had started to change then. I don't know, or I don't know. I just all I was looking for was just the next job, because I really was trying to support everybody. And I just wanted to keep working. And once I'd gone to I'd moved to Oregon, I knew that the first few years when I lived in Oregon, I tried really hard to go back and forth for meetings and stuff. And there were no direct flights from Medford, Oregon to Los Angeles at the time. So I'd have to always stop in San Francisco. It would always be a delay for fog or something. So it was hard. And so I finally just thought, I just can't, with two little kids, I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I said, I'm just going to take what's offered to me. So I was lucky to keep getting offered interesting stuff. Um, I was just really lucky. Maybe it's because I had a good foundation of people knowing who I was, and that I was, reliable and conscientious and all those things. So like the Kennedys of Massachusetts, I got there. I got Copacabana that I did with Barry Manilow, and tons of stuff. Oh, Cross My Heart, the movie I did with Marty Short. So
That's one of
Oh,
your
yeah.
favorites, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, it was my favorite movie experience, actually. Yeah,
How
because we shot it
come?
like a play.
Ooh.
So that's why you loved it because, well, I'm sure he
Well,
was amazing too.
mainly I loved it because of Marty. He was so wonderful and funny and darling. It was just a wonderful time. He's exactly what you think I mean, he's just a sweet man. And we had a really good time. Yeah, because we it was mostly just the two of us. So we would kind of there were sequences we did out of order, but most of the stuff that we did in this apartment, it covers these people's third date, and they really like one another, but they each have a big secret. He's lost his job and she's got a child she hasn't told him about. So they have to kind of come to if they're going to stick, this is going to work out, that they're going to have to be truthful with one another, and they don't want to be. So the movie's about that. And so we spent a lot of time in this one apartment, which is not his apartment. That's the other lies. I think this is his apartment. It's his best friend's apartment. So it was just really fun. I just remember going home at night and my face was hurting so badly because I was laughing all day long, just from in between scenes, just laughing at him and whoever he was talking to. It was obviously so funny.
With the role for Smallville, you had mentioned that you actually left because it got a little, you were doing the same thing. You didn't really have like a
Mhm.
lot of meat to the role.
Yeah.
Was it hard to leave it or you were
No,
done?
because I was commuting and my kids were in high school and middle school back in LA, and I committed to 6 years, which I did, and the money was very good.
Good.
It was and my friend John Glover calls it the golden handcuffs. You're just on the plane a lot,
Yeah.
and there were times I'd go back and forth like 3 times in a week to Los Angeles for school events, or somebody needed some. I just wanted to be home. Um, but yeah, they asked me to stay on or to come, and I did go back for a few guest star type of episodes, but I had done it, and the show was not about her character, and it's like, if I'm going to work, I don't want to just be here and there. I want to be a part of the show and feel like I'm contributing. And it could have gone on a long time, but I'm glad I left. I that was after that I really decided I would go to New York and try to have a career there, which I did, because then the kids were a bit older. So I did do that, and I still have ties to New York and desperate to do a play there again. Hope that happens soon. Yeah.
So that's theater's kind of your favorite. Is that one of your favorite things is
I
theater?
love I love all acting, and
Oh,
they all take different muscles. It's like doing different types of, you're swimming or fencing. They're sports, but they're very different. So I just love the connection with the audience. My husband's on Broadway right now doing Glengarry Glen Ross, and so he's loving it. He's at a point now where it's like the separation is really hard for us. It's been the hardest thing, and we've had to do it a lot. And you'd think we'd be used to it. We are, but after a while, it's like, this is stupid. I feel stupid. Like, why am I not with you? And some of it is that we're older and we don't have as much time left as we've had, before.
It's interesting that you said that as you get older, you don't want to be apart as much. Do you find that since his kids have grown and your kids have grown, that your friendship is becoming stronger as you get older? Because I think
Absolutely.
Bridget and I have both been married 30 plus years, and it's really hard to be away from our
Yeah.
spouses.
hmm
Yes. It
hmm
really is. It almost becomes like an illness. I start to feel, well, right now I have terrible allergies. So I had to feel kind of sick. Whatever's blooming here in Vancouver does not like me. And boy, my eyes and yesterday we were around a lot of animals outside and it was like that didn't help either. But yeah, it's like heartsick,
Mhm.
not to be together. The person who means the most, not the most, but up there in the top with the kids, the most. It's just hard not to be together. And we just like each other. We like the same stuff. We like to like I can't watch Jeopardy when he's not here. I just can't watch it. It's
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 so true. I
it
did the
breaks
same
breaks me
thing. Yeah.
hard. And
Yeah.
he can't watch The Amazing Race. Because that's my
We call that serial cheating. We can't series or serial cheating.
Mhm.
Yeah, because Colleen's husband has to travel a lot, and
I
Oh,
hate it.
yeah, my
I hate
husband
it.
retired. He doesn't have to travel as much, but he still has to travel some. And
yeah.
yeah,
But
it's
speaking of
hard.
Jeopardy, wasn't your husband like a celebrity Jeopardy
He is the
champion?
celebrity champion. He won $1 million
Oh
for
gosh,
charity.
Wow.
that's great.
That's
Oh
Yeah.
my
amazing.
gosh.
And I was in the audience, and you can hear me screaming when the tape plays. You can hear me screaming, and that was
Um,
it. Alex Trebek was still with us, and he's Annette screaming. Um, he would always point to me in the audience. It was really sweet. Yeah, Michael was on the show a few times, and then he won that a big tournament. And I was an alternate because I
Oh,
said I'm going to be there anyway. It wasn't on that big show, but it was on something they did from Radio City Music Hall. And I said I'm going to be there in the audience. Can I be an alternate? Because I wanted to give money to a charity, and I knew I probably wouldn't get on, but I really wanted to get on. But yeah, so I was given some money just for standing by. I was given
oh
some money for
wow.
my charity.
oh, that is
That's
great. That's
nice.
great. What charity were you choosing?
Well, I don't think it exists anymore. It was called
Mhm,
Stitches from the Heart. It
mhm.
was a knitting charity because I'm a big knitter, and it would give. We would make blankets and little sweaters and baby booties and bonnets to give to hospitals and shelters for babies who didn't have the stuff they needed.
Right. Oh, that is really nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a role that you really wanted that you did not get to play in your career?
Yes. I tested for Body Heat that Kathleen Turner did with Bill Hurt. I think five of us tested. I think it was me, Kathleen, Ann Archer, maybe Carrie Fisher, and somebody else. It wasn't Elizabeth Perkins. I think she was a little too young at the time. Um, and I really, really wanted to do that part. And I also, I kind of have a reputation as being the person who came in second for pretty much everything. Terms of endearment, I really
Oh,
wanted to do, and
oh,
it was kind of me for a long time until Deborah Winger walked in the door, and then that changed. And it's
um,
the funny thing is, I would have been good in those roles. It wouldn't have been the same movie that we know and love. It would have been a different movie. Maybe it would have been as good, maybe not. Who knows? But we'll never know. But I worked with Richard Crenna one time, and I think at the time I'd been up for something that I didn't get, and I said I was just, I just, it broke my heart, and I said, but I guess things happen for a reason. And he said, not everything happens for a reason, but other things happen.
mhm,
And
yeah.
it seemed like a very simple thing, but I thought it's really kind of profound, and he's really right. And that's what life is. It's all these series of like meeting Michael at the right time. We were both at a point in our lives where we desperately needed one another, and we happened to be free at the same time, and everything worked out. It's just life is such an adventure. And I
Mhm.
just finished watching, actually just today, right before we talked, the documentary about the Judd family, the
I
Judds.
need to read the set. They live around where we live now.
Oh yeah, because when
Yeah.
you said
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
And it's so, I mean, it makes me cry. It's so moving and so sad, but also very life affirming. Those women are very strong young women who she left us with, and um, I don't know. I'm saying a lot of things mishmash,
No.
but
No, no,
I just
no.
think life, you just never know where it's going to take you,
Right.
and you never know about. You look at somebody like Naomi Judd, and you think, wow, she's got the
Hmm.
world on a string. It's like, nope, she had so many horrible things happen to her in her life that she just couldn't deal with.
Right. I've only seen the first one. I need to watch the second one.
Yeah, it's pretty
Ashley, she went
amazing.
to college where I went, or she went to University
Right.
of Kentucky, and I
Uh,
had a few classes. I really didn't know her, but I did have
uh-huh.
classes with her, and she was a very smart girl.
Oh
Like
yeah.
she really, we had like things that weren't even her major, and she knew all about it. So she
Yeah.
was very
Right.
smart,
You
and
could
Yeah.
tell she was always
oh,
very
she was a
articulate
smart
when
girl,
she was and
yeah.
Winona lives like
Like
a
we
mile
we
away
live in
from us.
Tennessee now, so we live like
Oh,
down the
you
street.
can't escape the Judds. Oh my goodness.
No. And you could definitely hear her at the grocery store. You're like, there's Winona. She's
Yeah.
here.
I said it in our interview, I think with Elizabeth Perkins, that I saw her once and she had on all black and I thought that she worked at Kroger at the grocery. I'm like, I know that lady. How do I know
You
that
couldn't
lady? She
pinpoint
works
her.
here. She works here.
Yeah.
That's all I know her. But yeah, but it is interesting how you say, you look at somebody like the Judds, or you look at some of these people and you don't know, just on the surface, you think they have this fabulous life. And I found that out from a lot of people that we interview. I think Moon Zappa and Iona
Unit.
Sky,
Yeah.
yeah, they really stand out. They've written these books and they're about my age. And when I
That's
was in
my
high
age too,
too, that's
Bridget.
right. But you're in high school and they're the
Yeah.
people you see in the magazines, and you
Right.
think life must be really great for them. Then you read
Hmm.
this book about what it was like for them, and you're like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
just feel terrible for them, and I'm really happy to see them on the other side,
Yeah.
and being strong like they are today. And
Yeah.
somebody that really shares those stories with you, it really, I don't know, I really have so much admiration for someone that really shares their story and what's
Me
going on with
too.
them.
Yep. And there are a
Just
lot of them out there, boy.
yeah, there are.
Was there ever a time, because it doesn't sound like it, but was there ever a time where you were like, I think I'm going to slow down the career and maybe not take as many roles? Or do you just still have a passion for what you do?
I do have a passion for it. I'm going to try to be more selective. Not that I'm offered a ton of stuff, but I'm just very mindful now of wanting to be home more. We just moved to a new house, and Michael's never slept there. We moved. He had to go to New York for rehearsal, and I did the move with my daughter Anna helped me with the move, and so he's not you know had the opportunity to live in the new house. So we really want to take the summer and just do that. He's got a lot coming up with. They did a sequel to Spinal Tap called the Spinal Tap. The End Continues. Um, and so
Look
that's
how
coming.
Bridget's very excited. Sorry.
They're going to premiere it in September, so they've got a lot of things planned that may or may not happen. Depending. I'd love to be there for all those things because it's very exciting. But just to spend some time together in the house before he goes off and does all this stuff. Um, but the phone could ring and there could be that's kind of the exciting thing about being an actor. These projects are going on and you don't even know about it, and you get a call because they're finally ready to cast, and maybe an actress they wanted has fallen out of it, and you get the call, and that's always really kind of one of the perks of. Oh, Barry's saying hi. There's a very large ear. He's got huge ears.
Oh,
That's
he's
so
so cute.
cute.
Yeah.
He's got the same eyes as my granddog. So
Aw. Well,
yeah,
they're related
they
somewhere
might be
back.
related.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
With we talk a lot about the wisdom and the privileges that come with getting older and
Mhm.
that we've earned. And what would you say are some of the most important kind of either privileges or wise experiences that you've had that you would want to share with either your daughters? We do this podcast for our daughters. We both have daughters. Don't
Mhm.
have to, they take for granted the things that we had to talk about with menopause and all those fun things. And we're kind of past that. But what do you find that you've kind of earned as a privilege in this time of life?
I think just being able to speak my mind and not feel like I'm taking up too much space, or that I don't have the right to say how I feel. For a very long time, just until kind of recently, I felt very embarrassed about saying what I really feel, even in my work. Um, and I don't know really why, but I don't feel that so much And sometimes it's like a part you play, like playing Hope in Virgin River. She's very outspoken and speaks her mind. I thought I kind of like to be more like that. So maybe I've just taken it on because she's, such a part of me. I've been doing her for 7 years now. Um, but I just being who you are is enough. Maybe because from a very young age, I've been trying to please and trying to be somebody else or play a part and be the perfect, you know, little dancer or the perfect little daughter or whatever. I don't feel that pressure anymore, but it's taken a long time not to feel that way. Um, but I don't know. I don't have any huge wisdom about anything.
No,
Sorry.
but you
I
seem
just
no,
don't.
that's actually quite no,
That's
that's
nice.
actually quite nice because we do hear from a lot of women that just feel like I'm enough. I'm
Yeah.
enough just as exactly as I
That's
am.
exactly
I,
right. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, look, if you're doing a Zoom thing, you can see I don't dye my hair anymore. I got sick of doing that. And I have to say, I don't believe in plastic surgery unless it's for me definitely. And I from seeing some other actresses, I think it's a mistake. But unless it's life for people who really need it for
Yeah.
certain things, but just as a sort of thing, like, well, I don't like the way my neck looks. I don't like the way my neck looks, but tough. I have had the privilege of all these years of experience, so that should be that's why I love Jamie Lee's take on everything. She's like, here I am, this is it, this is what this me at this age looks like. And we shouldn't all have to be, why are we fixated with being young? And I think it's because people are afraid of dying.
It could be. Yeah. I think it could
And
be. Yeah. And it is it's really amazing too. And I love to see the embracing so many people, just like I've had it with the hair coloring.
yeah.
Andy
And
McDowell, she
and
is
Oh my
just
God,
yeah,
she couldn't be more beautiful.
yeah. I
And
mean,
the
so
irony
many.
is that people admire it, like other women, admire it. But I don't have the courage to do it. It's like, doesn't take courage. Just don't do
To
it.
not to
just
not
don't dye your
not sit
hair.
in a chair for 2.5 hours and pay
Yeah,
all
and
this
hear that
money.
horrible music and talking.
And
Yeah.
she said, I don't want to be young again. I've done that. And if you
Yeah,
do it well, you don't really want to do it again. And so
yeah,
it's kind of nice it's just, there's something very peaceful about getting older that if you embrace it, it can be a beautiful thing. I think a lot of women are fighting. They're looking so far behind them that they
yeah.
don't see what's in front of them. And it's just a shame because there's
I
so many good
know.
things.
Because today is really all we have for sure for this moment. I'm healthier, I think, than I've ever been. I know I am. I eat better, and I walk I have osteoporosis, so I have to walk to build bone because I didn't want to take the injections that they give you. My doctor really wanted me to take them. I said, let me try to do this with diet and exercise. And she said, okay, I'll give you a year. And so I did another bone density test, and I'd stayed exactly the same.
Oh,
So she
that's
said,
great.
okay, you can say, so I've done that now for 3 years. So I walk at least, I wear my little, I forgot to put it on me,
So
but I
pedometer.
always put it on.
Mhm.
I put it on my other pants. I threw them in the washing. Anyway,
Well, I hope you don't
I don't have
wash
my
it.
pedometer. So no,
Yeah.
I did that once and I thought, oh God, it's dead, but it came back. Uh, but so I walk at least 7,000 steps a day, mostly more because now I'm walking Barry all through the Stanley Park, which I'm living close to in Vancouver. So I just, yeah, I feel really good. I feel physically better than ever.
Oh, that's
That's
great. I mean, that
that's
is.
amazing. And
Mhm.
you look amazing too.
You
Thank
do.
you.
You
You
do.
look
Thank you very
happy.
much.
You
Yes.
I'm
radiate
very
a
happy.
certain happiness, and that you can always see it in someone's face when they're
Hmm.
Yeah.
content
Yes.
and happy. And we so appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure to be here and talk to you guys. And I wish I had more wisdom to impart, but
Oh,
just
you're
just
No,
just
you
hang in there,
did.
plenty.
everybody. It gets better. It really does.
It
It can
does.
be. Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
That is so true. See, there you go. Words of wisdom right there.
There was.